You're very welcome to another episode in our Housing Thought Leadership series, where we look at the challenges and opportunities in delivering housing in the Irish market. This is the first episode in our second series. I'm delighted to be joined by Áine Stapleton, Assistant Secretary in the Department of Housing. Áine, many thanks for taking the time to come in today.
Thank you, Paul. Delighted to be here.
Lovely. I might just start, Áine, if you mind just setting the scene, giving an update on your current priorities and how we're going about delivering on our housing targets.
Sure. There's a lot of elements to answering that question. It's a complex area, as you know, around housing delivery. I think a good place to start is our current framework, which is Housing for All. So, as you know, that was agreed by government back in the autumn of 2021 with 4 key pathways. So it was looking at increasing home ownership and affordability. It was looking at increasing social housing delivery, tackling homelessness and social inclusion, increasing overall housing supply, and then looking at our existing housing stock around vacancy and best use of existing stock. So reflecting on where we've come to under that Housing for All plan, the ambition was to have an average of 33,000 new homes delivered per annum. So already by the end of 2023, we're very close to that at 32,700. So it is very positive in terms of the way the sector, both the construction sector and our own partners across the state, the local authorities, the AHBs, the LDA, have come together to really ratchet up delivery, and we can see a very positive pipeline ahead. And then, I suppose, looking within the component parts at that key priority around social housing delivery, last year we saw the biggest delivery since the mid-1970s. So again, a very positive sign that we're heading in the right direction. And the affordable range of schemes, which are brand new, the legislation only in place since 2021, we're beginning to see over 8,000 already delivered and a strong pipeline in place. So within that then, we have some key priorities, which are, I think, very common among the general discourse around housing. Issues of affordability and viability, and then where do we go to from here? So there are a number of schemes that are supporting affordability. Our cost rental schemes, our first home schemes, and the Help to Buy are all helping homeowners in terms of just bridging that gap. And then with viability, we've been looking at very specific measures, such as the Creek Conaha scheme for apartments in the cities, looking at how we can also maybe trigger commencements. So the development levies waiver and the water connection rebate both seem to have been quite successful, and we see a very significant number of commencements this year. So all in all, it's on a very positive pathway. But we're at a point now, in light of the population projections and the work done by the SRI, where I think across the board, across the political system, across all commentators, we see the need for a significant step up. And we're now talking about preparing for housing targets, certainly 50,000 plus. So all of that suggests that we now need to reposition ourselves for that step up in delivery. And we're currently in the department just finalising those new housing targets and also looking at that within the context of the first revision of the National Planning Framework.
Very good, and that's really positive. And we might just pick up on both viability and affordability, if that's okay. So maybe viability, first of all. I know there's been a lot made in the last couple of years. We've had COVID, we've had site shutdowns, we have rising construction costs, supply chain constraints. It feels like that's levelling off, but equally, I know there's such a huge challenge, particularly on apartment building. Just interested to get your perspective on the key challenges at the moment, or are there others there that I'm missing?
Yeah, viability does remain a significant challenge, and I think you're quite right to pick out the apartments, particularly those in brownfield sites. They are quite challenging. We recently concluded a total cost development study, which I suppose gives us a benchmark in terms of what that cost now is. And interestingly, the component parts that are the drivers of those costs. So it is a very important insight for us in terms of what makes up that cost. What we are looking at under the Housing for All actions is a pathway towards more innovation in the sector, more productivity, looking to more modern methods of construction. And there is a roadmap developed with our colleagues across government in the Department of ET&E and also further in higher education to really build momentum around growing that MMC sector. We set a lead. The state has actually identified 1,500 social homes that will be delivered through MMC, which is building that capacity both in the sector but also in our local authority partners. And we hope that'll be a starting point to developing that side of the industry. And certainly when we look at the need for labour and skills, we can see that there will be productivity gains to be made by moving more in that direction.
Yes, very good. Yeah, no, I've seen that more and more the last couple of years. It takes a little bit of time to get moving, get momentum, but MMC certainly seems a big player. Any concerns over labour or skill shortages in relation to the rollout of MMC?
Well, we have in train through our delivery partners, and particularly with further and higher education, a number of initiatives to build on those skill sets through the third level sector and also build on apprenticeships. We'd also hope that MMC maybe offers opportunities to a wider range of the workforce, that there may be elements of the workforce and perhaps more of the female element of the workforce who would be more attracted to working off-site rather than on-site, and therefore that we might have a wider pool to choose from. I think the other aspect with people making career choices relating to construction is having certainty around the future and that they can see a medium to long-term future in it. And what is hugely positive at the moment is that consensus that's emerging across the political system and across the commentators around where our housing need needs to go and the level of that need. So I would be hopeful that that would encourage both the sector to grow and investment by the sector, but also when people are making career choices and making choices around third level, that they can see those pathways.
Very good, no, really good.
So we
really
hope to grow that.
Yeah, excellent, very good. We might just pivot into affordability and looking at from a homeowner's perspective. It certainly feels, and I've been involved in housing for a number of years, but we are getting some positive momentum and traction in relation to rolling out affordable purchase and cost rental. I mean, and with a number of schemes coming online, I think you agree with that, but just what's next and what's your hopes in relation to the model going forward?
Yeah, again, we're very heartened by what's happened so far. The Affordable Housing Act only came in 2021, so it's brand new, and particularly cost rental is a brand new tenure type for us here in Ireland. But already we're seeing it gain traction. We're seeing units being delivered that are made available at 25% or more below the market rate. So in terms of affordability, it's making it a very attractive option, and we're oversubscribed for all of those that come on stream. Although it's quite new, the AHB sector recently, with colleagues in UCD, did a study of the impact, and it was extraordinarily positive in terms of the security of tenure that people feel, and also the affordability and the sense of community building. So I think already within 3 years, we're beginning to see the beginnings of a very positive sector. I previously had social housing delivery before I came into the current role on housing policy and standards. And one of the things that we're very keen to achieve is a tenure mix, so that we move away from large-scale social housing developments. And the advent of cost rental and affordable purchase give us much more policy levers in terms of building those sustainable communities. So I think there's leverage there as well that we can build on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It can introduce more complexity at the outset in terms of the different options, but it all feeds into that mixed tenure approach, so very good. We might pivot slightly to sustainability. I mean, sustainability is at the core of everything we do in infrastructure now, and I guess from a new stock delivery, we build that into the design standards. I think more it's an issue for existing stock and maybe for vacant sites and the cost in retrofitting and remedying works and everything like that. Where do you see that playing out from your perspective in the housing stock, and what do you want to see the industry deliver in relation to that?
Yeah, it is a challenge. I suppose it's useful to look at how far we've come as well as the challenge ahead. So at the moment we are building up a very important database around the BER certification. So a BER cert is now required for a new house or a house that's up for sale or for rent. So we have now about 1.2 billion BER certs, which give us a really good look into what does the housing stock look like. And of those, just under 2/3 have a C rating or higher. So we're not too bad in terms of the overall stock, if that's an indication. We have under the Climate Action Plan an ambition to retrofit 500,000 homes, and there are government grants which are fairly significant available for that. So I think all of that is moving in a very positive direction, and also the vacancy refurbishment grant is helping people maybe again bridge that gap in terms of tackling an older property and bringing it back into use. Yeah. The cohort that we would be most concerned about are our own tenants in social housing, where energy efficiency and the costs are perhaps more significant as a proportion of overall income. There's a particular funding stream on our vote that supports the social housing retrofit programme, and that has an ambition to bring 36,500 into that programme by 2030. But we're also building on the significant uptake in new housing stock and social housing, and also some previous retrofit initiatives. So our estimation at the moment is that by 2030, about 70% of our social housing tenants would be in a home with a B2 rating or higher.
Okay, very good.
So again, I think we're making very good progress, and we just need to continue that momentum.
Very good, excellent. I guess it's complex as well, because there's different degrees of retrofitting and works that are needed, so it takes
there
time.
is, and obviously the older housing stock is much more challenging.
Okay, yeah, of course, yeah, very good. Listen, I can't let you go without talking about planning, so sorry about this.
Absolutely.
But I guess interested to get your views with the revised draft of the National Planning Framework, and all our hopes that will be the enabler to unlock planning challenges and delays moving forward, and it's just to get your views in relation to that.
Again, it's a very active area. Pleased to say that the President signed the new Planning and Development Act 2024 on the 17th of October. So I think that's a very important step forward in terms of planning reform. The MPF itself then is undergoing its first revision. So as you know, it has its origins in 2018 with the National Development Plan as part of Plan Ireland 2040. There have been a number of policy and legislative changes and indeed changes around population since 2018. So it is very timely now to review and update it and bring it into line. So government agreed last summer that the MPF would be reviewed, and that has largely now been completed. So it takes account of the work the ESRI have done in terms of population projections. It also takes account of what that might mean in terms of future housing demand. And crucially, on the climate side, it also, for the first time, is including provisions around renewable energies. So it is bringing it up to date and in line with a suite of other government policy and legislative initiatives. We've had over 200 submissions on the plan, so all of those have been gone through, and it is at the final stages. But it will be a very important platform for moving forward, and particularly as we move forward to scaling up both housing demand, but also things like energy supply and infrastructure.
Brilliant. I think that's a really important point you make around talking to other wider government policies and how it all stitches together.
Yeah,
excellent.
It is, and it's important, I think, from a housing perspective. We never do anything in isolation.
Yeah.
It's always integrated with other policies, and we always have to be sure that we're working in step with other colleagues across government.
Excellent, very good. Listen, thanks very much. That was a really encouraging way to finish the discussion. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you have a lot on your agenda. Say thank you all for watching. Hope you found that informative, and stay tuned for more episodes in our series. Thank you.